Hey everyone, and welcome to the Debrief, the podcast where we break down all things sports and give you the real scoop on what's happening. I'm your host, Summer Hashmi, joined by my co-host,
Sophia Palumbo.
And today we're going to get into the Big W. But before we get into our main tea time for today, why don't we introduce ourselves and give you a little bit of context behind our podcast.
For sure. So welcome everybody. We're so happy to have you guys here. So Summer and I were both fourth year students at Toronto Metropolitan University, where we major in sport media. We're both in our fourth years.
It's crazy to hear.
Crazy to hear. But we basically started the podcast just because we have a deep love of sports and its ties to pop culture. But we wanted it to be women focused. We know that it can be very daunting trying to get into this space as a female. It definitely feels male dominated. So we 100%. Wanted this to be like a safe space for the girls. We want it to feel like a group chat and very just vibey with your friends. Yeah. We like the idea of having it be like a sports sorority. So we're going to tackle more serious issues like mental health, sexism, but we're also going to do fun stuff like talking about fashion and wags. We're going to cover it all. So we're so happy to have you guys with us.
So we're going to start off with our current event segment, which we call Hot Goss. We give you the rundown of kind of what's been going on in sports and lifestyle in the past week. And then we kind of, usually it will relate to our main theme, which is our main topic. And that is called Tea Time. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. Some stuff is a lot lighthearted and fun, and some of the stuff is a little bit more serious, but we're going to get into that, and then we end off our show usually with a Hype Queen of the Week, where we highlight somebody that we think is making waves in the sports industry.
For sure. So to get right into it, let's get into our current hot goss, our most current event. So basically, this professor that we know, she's also a journalist with CBC, she recently published an article about some critiques and complaints around the Toronto Scepter's new brand. For everybody that doesn't know, the PWHL has recently released the brand kits and the names, the team logos for the teams.
Some questionable stuff out there.
Yeah, a bit of controversy. So to get into this article, her name, by the way, is Shireen Ahmed. She basically just highlights that there has been, again, some critiques surrounding the name. Again, it's Scepters, so basically the issue is that it kind of ties into some colonialist themes.
Leave Toronto to bring that up, of all things.
I mean, I definitely understand it. I definitely understand both sides to it. There was an interview from Dr. Melissa Kimber, who is a professor at McMaster University. And she said, okay, I'm super excited for season 2 of PWHL and wondered how in September, which contains our National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, that Toronto has wrapped itself around colonial symbolism. Was there any consultation with Indigenous communities about the names and symbols? Basically, the PWHL response was that the scepter is a timeless symbol of leadership spanning centuries, continents, and cultures.
Yeah, I do have to agree with the PWHL in that respect. I don't think it's that deep. I think we're reading a little bit too much into it, in my opinion. I know everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but that's mine. I have my own reasons for not liking the Scepters. I just don't
let's get into your reasons. Why does it not meet your approval?
I don't think it ties into Toronto at all. I don't know if, the Leafs... The maple leaf is a symbol of Canadian culture, so it makes sense.
Right.
The Oilers, it's an oil city, right? There's certain things that, every city kind of, it ties. Specifically PWHL related. New York Sirens is probably my favorite of the 6 teams, just because it has direct correlation to New York.
Right.
Initially when I thought of the Sirens, I thought, Siren in the Sea, like a mermaid, just because it's surrounded by water.
Right, that would make sense too.
Yeah. But it's actually an actual siren. And so it was funny because I was looking into, I looked at the Instagram and I was doing a deep dive on all 6 teams and kind of what tied it. Even Boston, the Boston Fleet, not the coolest name, but it resonates with the city because
Right.
Boston is surrounded by water for the most part. So it's
Right.
like it's a coastal city. So the boats kind of still connect to Boston.
Yeah.
Even with the Minnesota frost, cold, winter, snow, like
Right.
you think of frost, right? So like each name had something to do with the city. Like
And then
what,
Toronto's just kind of way out left field, kind of
Right.
random, like.
And being from TMU, we just did a whole rebrand, and it's funny because we're sport media students, but nobody from our program was consulted, not even our profs.
Right.
That's a whole other thing. But I just find it interesting that, like, even with them, like, we ended up on the bold, but eventually, at one point, we were thinking of being the TMU Towers.
Right.
And okay, that is probably one of the worst names I've ever heard.
But at least it's Toronto related.
Like it makes sense,
Right.
right? Like it has something to do with Toronto.
Yeah.
When I think tower, I think CN Tower. CN Tower automatically, that's like the first thing I think of when I think of Toronto.
It's a symbol of the city.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? The skyline, Drake and his album, like,
Right.
like there's nothing more Toronto than the CN Tower.
Right.
So like, again, like when they went with the scepters, like I don't understand how that tied.
Yeah, this is the
Toronto.
tie that they can find. It's a royal symbol, basically.
Yeah,
It doesn't have that great of a history, but I understand that it's something that a queen would hold. It's a symbol of power. And I think that the scepter for this team is their hockey stick,
Maybe.
right? Like, I think
Yeah.
that's supposed to be the symbolism. On top of that, it's just kind of an awkward word to say.
Yeah.
Scepter,
Like-
it's tough.
Like,
I know
go,
that.
scepters, go. Like that just doesn't.
Right. Right. There were even some complaints in the article. There was a dyslexic girl who was like, this is a hard word for me to read and spell.
Oh,
like,
I
it's
didn't
just,
think of that.
yeah, like there's just a bunch of different things. There's also that it's spelled differently in Canada than it is in the States. In Canada,
Yeah.
we do RE. In the States, it's ER. So it's like in the graphics,
That's gonna
when
be- yeah.
an American channel is talking about it, how are they gonna
Present it,
spell
yeah.
it? Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
different. So that's something that you have to, I don't want to say worry about, but that's something that's an extra
Step, yeah.
right.
I don't know. I think like I'm so worried about the WNBA team that's coming in next year. Like it's
Yeah.
I don't know. They also have some questionable names out in the WNBA, so I'm kind of worried.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, still excited about the season and the
sure.
PWHL and what's gonna happen this year.
Yeah, like there's not going to be a rebrand, I don't think.
no,
Like the name
no.
just dropped. Like
Yeah,
like it's here to stay.
Unless it was something offensive,
Right.
it's not, right? And like I
Yeah.
mean like really offensive. Like you have to find like some direct facts that correlate that to being offensive.
Right.
Because they just spent a lot of money
Exactly.
developing that name and
Exactly.
and creating branding and jerseys and graphics and stuff for that, right? So
100%.
I don't know. But speaking of the PWHL,
Mm-hmm.
let's get into our main tea time for today.
It's that me espresso.
So basically our main topic today is the big W. The question's kind of like asking, why is the W necessary? Why is it there? Example, PWHL, LPGA, WNBA, sorry. There's all of these things all these leagues that are women specific. It kind of sets women as other. It's not specified that it's the men's NBA, right?
Yeah.
The men's National Hockey League. So it's just something that kind of sets women apart. And so we kind of just wanted to look at the history of that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there.
There's definitely
there's
a lot. I mean,
there.
looking in Canada, they weren't allowed to really be participating in sports until the 1920s and 30s. And even then, they were only quote unquote allowed to do sports that were considered graceful and feminine, such as figure skating, diving, swimming, tennis, gymnastics. Yeah, so they still had to fit that mold. Canada had their first female Olympian in 1924. Her name was Cecil Smith, and she was a figure skater. So that's
wow.
obviously really cool that
Yeah.
that there was an Olympian representing Canada, a female Olympian representing Canada that early.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
It's crazy to think that it took that long.
right. I mean, it definitely could have happened sooner, and I don't want to say it's cool just to break that barrier anyway.
Yeah. Not to
Yeah.
undervalue what she did. Like that's still amazing, but I don't understand why. Again, it's also a different time and a different world, but
100%.
that's still a long time.
100%. And then because of the war, World War One and Two, women, while the men were away, they were participating in more sports and doing their own leagues and forming their own teams. And then when the men returned, they were kind of tried to push back into that feminine sports only mold.
How convenient.
Yes, of course.
When you need them, they're there, but when you don't, then they get moved aside as per usual.
But they kept fighting, and in 1981, feminist athletes and activists established the Canadian Association for the Advancement of Women in Sport, which is super cool. And then ever since then, women have been dominating for Canada in the Olympics. Like, you look at the stats, it's mostly women winners, which is really cool. And then, of course, the PWHL was just created, and a women's professional soccer league, the Northern Super League will begin in 2025, which is super cool as well. So a lot of advancements have still been made, which is, of course, amazing to see. But at the end of the day, that W still exists.
Yeah.
And the W is still other.
It's so unfortunate to, like, not unfortunate, I wouldn't say that. It's just, it's frustrating because you say, okay, well, why is the W there? But then on the other hand, if the W wasn't there, would we just be another league?
Exactly. Like, that's another point. Does it make the women's leagues stand out? Does it make them unique? Is it a smart marketing tactic? Like,
putting that W there, because then now people now know. My issue with that, like, I agree with in that sense that it definitely puts us on the map as it differentiates us.
Right.
But then it's like, okay, well, why do they not have to put that M in there still? It's just
right. Like, it's definitely an historical thing. They were the blueprint. They were the first thing. They were the norm. So then when women join later, they're automatically put into this bubble of other. And they weren't, again, in Canada, they weren't allowed to play sports early on in the country's history. So that automatically, once they join, eventually that automatically places them in the other category. And then even comparing women's sports to men's sports, that's ultimately designating women's sports as inferior, having to constantly try to compare them. Like stuff like, oh, she's the whatever, Sidney Crosby of women's hockey. Yeah. That's not, she's her own thing. You don't need to try to relate her to that.
Exactly. And I feel like that happens way too often.
And it creates a hierarchy, basically. Yeah. It puts men's at the tops and women's below.
The thing with that is too, it's like you can't compare them. Right. Like it's like comparing apples and oranges. Right. You can't. Women's sports are different than men's sports. Like if you look at hockey, for example, I played hockey for a long time, and men's hockey is more about physicality. Women's hockey is more about skill and tactics. Right. They have to be able to, because they don't have that element. They do have a certain degree of physicality in women's hockey, but for the most part, they need to be able to move the puck faster. They need to maybe move their feet faster, right? They have to do other things to get around that. I can't just, if I want the puck, I can't just push somebody into the boards. Right. Or give them a check to push them into the boards, right? So it's like, there's that element of that. And that's the other part of this. I feel like time and time again, we keep comparing the two, but they're not.
They're two different games. They're running parallel to each other.
Exactly.
Like, just let them be their own thing, because when you start comparing the two, that automatically again enforces the hierarchy that men are superior.
And that's why I love the sport of gymnastics.
Right.
Because women's gymnastics
is more popular than men's gymnastics.
Even like the skill that they need, right? Men's gymnastics focuses on strength.
It's catered to them.
Yeah. And their body type and what they're able to do.
Right.
And women's gymnastics is about flexibility and poise and creativity. Not to say men's don't have creativity, but I just find with the floor and stuff, women's is...
There's more dance elements.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more creative in that respect. So like gymnastics understands that they're two separate, same sport, but they have two separate skill sets. So let's focus and highlight their skill sets.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really great example. And there's things like that in basketball too, right? The WNBA, I'm pretty sure the hoops are lower.
Yeah, ball size is different.
The ball size is it's smaller.
Yeah, it's catered to their their body type. Like even like I play flag football, and my football is not the same size that my dad uses,
Right.
because my hands are significantly smaller.
Yeah, and
right?
that's not a bad thing.
No, it's a
Right.
fact of life,
Yeah.
right? So it's like people need to factor that in and consider that as well
Right.
when they're thinking about sports or comparing athletes. Like it's frustrating to see that as well.
Right. Like comparisons should not be made based on gender.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you've played hockey your whole life.
Yeah.
So have you felt in that sport, have you felt othered basically?
I haven't, but I was doing some reflecting, and it's like
Right.
there's still that element of other, right? Even in the minor leagues. So, for example, the league name. So we're the Ontario Women's Hockey Association, the OWHA. The men's is OMHA, Ontario Minor Hockey Association,
Right.
right? So I didn't even, like, I thought the M always stand for men's,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize.
So you thought there was that
Exactly.
equality piece.
Exactly. But later on, I was looking into it, and it's actually the Ontario Minor Hockey Association.
Right.
So just like without realizing it, it's already there at a young age.
Right.
Even like the idea of growing up, they're always like, oh, like if you want her to play double A, single A, double A, then you want to put her in boys the first couple of years.
Right.
And then she'll transition to girls once contact comes in.
Right.
So that when she gets to girls, she's automatically faster, stronger, better, has more like her hands are better. Like it's just that comparison, like automatically it's taught at a young age.
Exactly.
And it's so subconscious, and it's so like you don't realize that it's happening until later on. You're like, oh, wait a minute.
Why am I putting my daughter in with the boys?
Yeah.
It's automatically assumed that the boys are better, stronger,
Exactly.
more skilled. So we got to put her in with their.
Exactly. Well, even if you look at a lot of our Team Canada players, Team USA players, they started their careers in boys.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And a lot of it is just because the lack of women's hockey, like accessibility to that. And also like brothers played, cousins played. So it's easier for them to just play boys for parents. But another part of it is really skill set, right?
Right.
Like even like us girls, a lot of the time, there's not a lot of summer all girls leagues. So we end up playing boys leagues.
Right.
And our coaches want us to be playing boys 4-on-4 so that by the time the fall comes together, we're stronger,
Right.
right? Because we've been playing against better teams all summer, quote unquote better teams,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So it's there. It's 100% there. It's just a little bit more swept under the rug, so you don't really notice it or see it as much.
It's something that is so normalized that
Exactly.
even just recently we were talking about this and you had the realization, wait, why am I telling, you used your sister as an example, why am I telling her to play with the boys?
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because the women should be developed on their own game, and they are developed enough that competing against each other should be enough.
Exactly.
To have to take a girl out of that to compete against the boys, and the idea that she will be better than the rest of the girls because she's more like a male player it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because you kind of wish that the girls could just kind of be their own thing and they don't have to draw on male qualities, I guess, to be better than the other woman.
There are some girls who play girls their entire career and they don't deal with the boys at all, and that's cool too. But the norm is to go and play boys or play boys in the summer.
Right.
And it's unfortunate, and it's just like I feel like like you said, it's like so normalized now that you don't really notice it.
Exactly.
Until you look at it later on.
Exactly.
Right?
And when you do compete with those boys, how do they treat you?
They don't give you the time of day.
Right.
They don't respect you. They don't pass to you. Unless you're like a Gretzky.
Yeah.
Right? Or a Spooner. Or
Yeah.
like somebody who's like crazy good.
Yeah.
They don't give you the time of day. I played summer hockey with boys pretty much every summer from like age 6 to 20. And every year it just like it gets worse and worse as they get older and older.
Like the disrespect, you mean?
Yeah, it's not even like they just ignore you. Like you're kind of like dead weight on the ice. Nobody passes, and it's like at the end of it, like I played in an all girls summer league a couple summers ago, and I played all the GTA girls play there usually, and like by the end of this summer, especially if you're on a random team, you become besties by the end of it. Everyone's talking to each other. You're always passing to each other. Because 3-on-3, 4-on-4 especially is very, like, there's a lot of space. Right? So there's a lot of passes, a lot of, like, nobody's taking the puck up every time.
Yeah.
So passing is important. And if you're on the ice and nobody's passing to you, you also feel, like, pretty bad.
Right.
And
it's
so
not a good thing for morale.
No.
Yeah.
And it's like, like you're wasting your time almost.
Exactly. And they see you first as a girl, therefore automatically you're not on their level.
Yeah.
And that's why they don't pass to you. You have to be exceptional. You have to really prove yourself. Like you said, you have to be a spooner for them to even see you as remotely equal in their eyes. Like you're worth passing to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every girl has a different experience. Like if you have a brother on the team, it's different.
Right.
If you have a friend on the team, it's different. If you are a spooner on the team, it's different. Right? But if you're not,
right,
and you don't have a connection to that team and you're just randomly placed there, then yeah, that's how it is, unfortunately.
So if you body check someone, what happens? What goes down?
So if whenever, this is my favorite moment in playing in summer hockey. There was one time I was probably in like U15, U16, and I was in the corner fighting for the puck. I gave this guy a good body check.
Right.
And he banged his elbow of all things onto the boards and he fell, like he splatted on the ice.
Right.
We had to take a knee, trainer came out. But the first thing, like, the guys all jumped to their feet. They were banging the boards. They're like, you just got hit by a girl. You beep, you blank, right? It's like, it's for them, it's more about, like, I thought in that moment that, oh my God, like, finally a little bit of respect here.
Yeah, they thought it would be cheers for you.
Yeah.
Or you thought it'd be cheers for you.
But no, they were just making fun of that guy.
Right. So no celebration for you, only ridicule.
Yeah.
For him.
Yeah. So it's like.
Yeah. So you're not revered, celebrated at all for knocking out a guy or a fellow player.
Yeah.
But instead, it's you lost to a girl.
Yeah.
And you should be embarrassed.
Yeah.
And we will yell at you.
Yeah,
You're going to be reminded of this forever by us.
Exactly. So
it's very unfortunate.
Very, very. And welcome to our last and final segment, the Hype Queen of the Week. So this is kind of where we will be, each week we'll talk about a character in the sports industry that we love, and kind of give a couple reasons why. And yeah, so why don't you start us off with yours?
For sure. So the girlie who stood out to me this week, Jessica Campbell, who has become the first woman to coach in the NHL with the Seattle Kraken.
Crazy.
Obviously, this is very, very cool to see. Very impressive. It was so cool to see her on the bench.
Yes, in her
with
suit.
The rest of the guys in her white power suit.
Oh, she looks so pretty.
She looked amazing. She was also the first woman to coach in the AHL, which is, again, really impressive. But now she's been able to crack that NHL glass ceiling, which is super cool. It's just really cool to see a woman in this space, especially in hockey, which is such a traditionally masculine sport.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely lives out, I guess, and kind of just displays typical male qualities. It's like with the fighting, but also all the things surrounding it. So to see a woman in power in this game on the NHL bench is so impressive, and I think that it's really inspiring for the rest of the girls that are growing up in hockey, or the rest of the women that have dreams of becoming a coach one day. Like, it's possible for you to make it to the NHL.
Yeah. Another career path just opened up, right?
For sure.
For a bunch of girls out there, especially the ones who maybe like weren't the best player but have leadership qualities,
right,
in the sense that they know the sport really well,
right?
Because you know what, the reality is some people are not meant to play but meant to coach. So that she just opened up a bunch of opportunities and possibilities for girls going into who want to work in the sports industry.
Yeah, girls can dream of making the NHL now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
A dream for them now.
That's crazy.
Like, that's really incredible.
And I know some people, they're like, well, I don't think a female should be coaching the guys. They've never played with the guys. They don't know how it is. They don't do this. They don't do that. And my answer to that is, at the end of the day, you pick the best person for the job.
Right.
The head coach knows what he's doing.
Head coach believes in her. They've worked together before. She has history with him. Like, he said that she's very focused on player development, and that's something that's really important, obviously, to this team if he's bringing her in.
Especially, Seattle is still a pretty new, young team, right? So, yeah, that makes total sense.
Right.
But, yeah, no.
Very proud of her.
Yes, we love her.
Very proud of her.
Okay, I guess it's my turn now. My hype queen of the week, Angel Reese. I know a lot of people love her. Some people don't. I am one of her fans.
So am I.
She is she's an icon. Like, I don't know if you saw her outfit for the WNBA finals.
Right.
Oh, so cool. She did this halter top, but it was 2 jerseys. She did half Lynx, half Liberty.
Yeah.
And like, she was there supporting all week, and it was nice to see. And like, even like her skill level, like, she's just incredible. She's her, obviously Caitlin Clark, like, these are women that are changing the game for women's basketball. Like, they're the reason why I think it's gotten so popular over the course of the year. Like, obviously there's been players like Sabrina Maniscalco and Diana Taurasi and like Brittany Griner. They've all definitely helped. Yeah. But like, this new generation of women's basketball players
they're really pulling people in. People are very fascinated by this new generation of
and I love
players.
I love the fact that Angel Reese is not afraid to like show off her femininity, but also she's like one of the best basketball players.
Yeah, she's proving, and this is something that I'll always believe. Femininity is not a weakness.
Oh, 100%.
If you want to have your eyelashes done for the game, girl,
do it.
Exactly. Like,
and she took that and went with it.
100%. It's not something to shy away from. It's something that I think is great to see. Of course, it's still great if girls don't want to wear makeup. It's not something that should matter.
Yeah,
just if a girl wants to wear makeup on the court or doesn't, just do what you want.
Yeah,
it doesn't affect how you play.
Oh, 100%. And I love the fact that she taps into that, but she's also like one of the fiercest athletes on the court all the time. And just the way she carries herself, the way she talks, she's
brand deal with Reese's.
Yeah, I love those sneakers. They're so cute. But it's just like, she's just an icon to me, and you'll hear me talk a lot about her over the course of the season.
Yeah,
but
she's very cool.
But yeah,
very cool.
So this has been the episode 1 of the debrief. Please don't forget to follow us on socials. We're the Debrief Pod 2024 on Instagram, and our website will be the debriefpodofficial.com.
For sure. So please check us out on there. Comment on our forum. Please don't be afraid to comment, share your opinions. We would love to hear from you guys.
100%.
We would love to talk about your opinions on the show. So if you guys share them with us, then we're definitely looking.
Also, comment down below what your favorite hype queen of the week is for the week this week. Yeah, like, who's your hype queen? We want to know. Maybe there's some characters in the sports world that we don't know about just yet.
Yeah.
But this has been the debrief. We love chatting with you guys. Until next time.
Bye.